Hey, welcome back to the FBC Podcast, Summer 2025. We are working our way through the book of James and talking about James, church life, and here we are. Fall is starting in Lodi. I'm glad you're joining us today. All right, I am here with my friends and co-workers and compadres, Junction and Brian Heisdu, and we are talking about, well, first we're going to talk about the book of James. We're getting close to the end of the book of James, and Pastor Glen is on vacation. Hope he is enjoying that. God bless that guy. But we talked a little bit about, I framed this week's message about wealth and sort of this, there's this harsh, I joked about it on Sunday, said, you don't put that on a Hobby Lobby mug, you rich are going to pay for this and, all that stuff. But wealth is something, I'll give you my first question is this. Why don't we talk about wealth? So many people, it's the one topic nobody wants to talk about. Why do you think people are afraid to talk about their wealth? Case in point.
I think because people generally don't feel like they're wealthy.
Yep.
And don't want to portray themselves as such.
Mm-hmm. But we don't even talk about money, how we spend it, how we use it. It's almost a taboo topic in a lot of circles. Like Brian, how much do you make? That's not something that we just don't do that in our world, But one of the things that I read a long time ago is one of the differences between the upper class or the wealthy and the lower classes is they actually talk about money and they talk about it with their kids and they train them in that. And a lot of us who are just grinding away trying to get by, we just don't bring it up. Why do you think that is?
Oh, there's a lot going on with that. I think sometimes there's an insecurity there of oh man, if I tell them how much I make and they make more money than me, then maybe I'm not as good as that person.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little shame in that, boy, I make a lot of money and I don't want anybody to know how much money I make. Mm-hmm. And they're going to try and borrow some money from me or something like that. I don't know. I think we just have this real privacy thing in our country, this individualism that we have that we don't like talking about certain things like that. And that's my business. That's none of your business. I think Jesus talks a lot about money.
A lot about money. That is the funny thing about it. Jesus talks a ton about it.
And I think somewhere in there kind of
not about his own.
Right.
No, but the principles and
And I think in there may be some of that shame of I know Jesus tells me I need to be giving away my money, but I'm not doing so much of that. So I don't know. It's a weird, awkward thing. And a lot of people, we get scared as soon as that starts coming up. So
it's a real thing. And I think the real part of it for me, at least as I was preparing this week, is how much our money really shows where our heart is. And really that selfish individualism gets played out in our pocketbooks more than maybe any place else.
Well, one of the key things that you said, Steve, is that it's not so much the wealth that we have, it's how much of that wealth has us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like what hold it has on our hearts. Yeah. It's one of those things that I feel like it's such it's such an intrinsic question for our culture of how you manage it, because for a lot of people, it ties up their, like you said, their identity, their self-worth, and all this other that goes along with it. It's and yet the church, we struggle to talk about it. We'll do something like a Financial Peace University, or I've seen Crown Financial Ministries. There's a few of those classes. We roll them out every once in a while, tell people how to handle their money according to God. I've always said, Proverbs has a master's degree of finance in it. I think I stole that from Dave Ramsey, but it's really true. You read through the book of Proverbs, and by the time you're done, you're like, I think I know how I'm supposed to handle my finances. But we just have a hard time talking about it. I think we need to normalize it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. The heart of Jesus's message usually involves idolatry. Where do you put your hope in? Like Brian was saying, like you said, it's what is it that hold it has on your heart? But in all reality, Jesus is always challenging us on every area of our life. What is it that we truly worship? Are we looking to money in order to solve our problems? Are we looking to our wealth in order to, satisfy us, in order to provide for us? We see back in the desert, God's plan was to provide daily for his people. Jesus prays in the Lord's Prayer, our daily bread. Yeah. Jesus didn't want us to be so wrapped up in ensuring that we have this huge hordes of money. In fact, he actually has the parable about the foolish man who has this great big crop, and he says, I'm going to build bigger barns. I'm going to store everything up. I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to party. And then he's like, God says, you foolish man, your life is going to be demanded from you. You don't even know it.
Yeah. Tonight even.
Yeah.
He didn't get a chance to start that.
He didn't even get to start the
project.
part. Right?
Yeah.
So I think Jesus is always just trying to bring us back to the reality of where are we putting our faith? Where are we putting our hope? What's holding sway over our lives, and trying to get us grounded back into the fact that he needs to be that one. So
it's funny because this passage is very specifically talking to these rich oppressors, these people in this society who are oppressing probably the people James was talking to, is the way that I framed it on Sunday and the way scholars think about it. We see that in our society, right? The rich, there's this very strong backlash against the rich, the uber rich, and how they're treating their workers. You were in banking for a long time, Brian. Like as you saw the banking industry and even employers and people that were doing it, how did you see that play out where there was this tension between, kind of those who were running the show and had the money and those that they were, employed, they employ people, right?
Yeah, and part of it is, risk level, responsibility level.
Yeah.
And so I think people tend to understand once they live it and it is explained to them, because there's an extra level of stress that goes with having your name on a guarantee, signed to the bank.
Yeah.
Collateral. And the responsibility for so many employees, you got to keep the business running, so we can pay our employees. And I think people tend to understand that over time.
There's a very real responsibility amongst business owners because they feel the tension of what if my business goes under. Maybe I could start over, but all these people that work for me are in real trouble. And so there's a layer of that responsibility that they hold on to, right?
Especially as a Christian.
Yeah.
We feel a stewardship not only for their well-being, financially, but also spiritually, eternally.
Yeah.
And it's an extra layer of responsibility.
Yeah, big time. John, you've been in the farming world for a long time, and I'm sure you see this. You've got people who, in fact, farming is sort of notorious for. You've got to labor up all of a sudden and get things done, whether it's planting or harvesting or whatever. And yet farming is so inconsistent in terms of like how the crops will come in.
Yeah.
Is the price of almonds up or down? I remember when my father-in-law had some almond trees out there.
No, it's crazy. Very rarely in a job do you spend all of your money ahead of time and then hope you get paid one time of year.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's funny. When I first got married, my wife's like, what's the difference between farming and gambling? And I said, you don't get, free buffet dinner out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? No, there's a lot, and there's so much faith that has to go into it because you just don't know what's going to happen. You've got weather, you've got economics, you've got labor forces, you got so many different things that go into it that you're just praying for consistently. You got to go to the bank and ask for a loan, and then you've got to spend that money ahead of time, praying that crop's going to come in, somebody's going to want to buy it, it's going to be at a price that's going to pay, hopefully, for what you've already spent on it, and maybe enough to, I don't know, pay for all the work you poured into it.
Right.
And then there's the years where it doesn't, and personally, we've been through several years, and there's a lot of farmers that go to our church that are in it right now too.
Right.
And they've got grapes that are hanging on the vine that they don't know that they're going to sell this year. And they've got money invested in that, and that's money out of their pocket. And it's hard. And, it's real easy to look at the greener grass on the other side, but also tied up in that is legacy. Some of us are farming land that our grandparents, great grandparents, settled on, and there's this expectation that you got to keep this thing going. And so not only do you have the financial responsibility and stress that you're dealing with, but you've got this other family stress that you're dealing with. And so, it's crazy. When I first got into it, you always see the rich, they always say the rich farmers driving around in their fancy pickup trucks. And, I thought, well, this is great. And actually the first year my wife and I farmed, we hit it big. And I thought if every year's like this is going to be great.
Yeah, right.
And then the next year got less, and the next year got less. And all of a sudden we came up short, and then all of a sudden you realize like, oh wow, what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah,
So
right.
it takes a tremendous amount of faith, and and it's not easy. It's not easy. And my dad and I started a farm management company, and we had 4 or 5 employees at one time, and it was hard because we had to hustle to find work to keep them going, because we were invested in them, and a lot of times they made more money than we did, because we wanted to make sure they were being provided for, and they worked hard for us, and we cared for them, and it wasn't always easy. And so that whole idea of money, it's a tricky thing.
It is.
It's a tricky thing.
And I think the question we ask ourselves is, how do we keep our Christian values? How do we live like Christ, whether we're in plenty or in want?
Yeah.
Because I think, probably a lot of people who watch this are not farming business or even in finance or anything like that. They're going to work for a job and a paycheck. And whenever that job evaporates, they're like, now what do I do? And in fact, it was funny, this just last week, I said to Brian, I wanted a salary survey, because I was like, we got to make sure we're paying our people what we need to pay them, because those numbers change over time, inflation and all that other stuff. But I want to honestly behave like Christ as we try to take care of those people along the way. So however you're dealing with money, we pray that, whatever God said to you this weekend, that's between you and God. But honestly, we want to be faithful to his word and talk about that stuff. And for those who are suffering under, we've talked about it. If you've ever been in a season where you've suffered under financial oppression, it's rough. And it is, on Sunday, I used this illustration that the reason we want it to end so far, so fast, is because our bank account is this very real, like, it's almost like a fuel gauge, and you can see the lights come on, and you've been operating below the lights on for a while, and you're thinking, we're really in trouble now. And anybody who's felt that has known this moment where you got to go to God and pray and hold on and still work according to whatever you can do. But it's a rough season. And we talked about, we've all been in seasons like that.
I thought your word picture was really good. When the bank balance is going down and your fear is going up, as well as debt is going up.
Yeah, big time.
And as a country, we are at a ridiculous level of debt.
Yeah, it's so funny. We wiped out a bunch of it at one point, and now we're back to all-time high consumer debt again. And it's like, it's a drug. I mean, our government can't stay out of debt. Our people can't stay out of debt. And we're all just living pretending lives like we aren't actually living it.
To impress people we don't know.
We don't even
invite to the wedding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Money is an ongoing battle for all of us, in a way we get to live out our faith. And this church is a really generous church. One of the things I want to, emphasize is not only has our church managed our finances well, we've been in the black, we've got reserves, but we've also been very generous in the way that we handle things, outside organizations, missions, all the rest. And so I'm proud of the way that the church has done that, but we want to walk with people through difficult times too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is the value. It's community group on-ramp season right now. We're trying to get people back in community groups. Everybody, for whatever reason, flutters off during the summer. And the value of being in a community group is so high for us. Being known, being vulnerable and honest and in those environments is a huge value for us. John and I work on that together, and Brian actually is getting ready to start a new community group. And so Brian, or Sean, I thought I would start with you. Like, the value of community group. Tell us why we do community groups.
Okay, so community groups are they're important for a number of reasons, right? It's not just about getting together. The Bible calls us to continuously gather together, right? But there's so much more that community provides for us. And for me, a large part of my job is discipleship, right? So I'm thinking like, community, being in a group, studying the word, living it out together, that's discipleship. But I actually thought about it from a different perspective, because my other role is counseling. So we are living according to the Surgeon General. So one of the things that actually came out back in 2023 is this large book called Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, put out by the Surgeon General. And essentially, it goes through and talks a lot about, I'm not going to bore you going through all the details, all 83 pages of it.
2023, right after the pandemic.
So, yeah, we're dealing with, but even prior to 2020, when the pandemic came out, they were already starting to do loneliness epidemics with the rise of social media, things going more virtual. People and institutions that have become more fragmented. They're not meeting in person as much anymore. That there's this deep desire for human contact. And so Surgeon General puts out this big thing. And so it just says about the advisory. Surgeon General's advisory is a public statement that calls the American people's attention to an urgent public health issue and provides recommendations for how it should be addressed. Advisories are reserved for significant public health challenges that require the nation's immediate awareness and action. This advisory calls attention to the importance of social connection for individual health, as well as community-wide metrics of health and well-being, and conversely, the significant consequences when social connection is lacking. So apparently they said this is such a significant problem, we need to address this not just on an individual level, not just on a community-wide level, but as a national level. This has become a health problem.
Mhm.
So one of the things that it came out with, it said that directly your connection with other people affects your health. If you are not connecting in person with people, your health will decline. And conversely, if you are connecting with other people in person, and by connecting, it doesn't just mean having a conversation. It means having deep, meaningful conversations, living life out together, helping each other through difficult times, celebrating during good times.
Yeah.
It says that when you do that, your health increases. So they're looking at it from that perspective.
There was a study done out of Stanford University not that long ago. Well, actually, it was over a really long time. It was over like 60, 70 years, one of the really long. And it was a quality of life and a longevity of life.
Yep.
And the single greatest indicator is deep, meaningful relationships.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best thing about that is this is a survey that they figured, or this is something they came out with in 2023. So 2 years ago. It's something the Bible has been talking about for thousands of years, right? This was God's original plan for man, because that's how he lives, is in community, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He has those deep, meaningful relationships, even at that level.
Yeah.
And he intended all of us to live at that level as well. So
Yeah.
one of the pillars, and this is actually the core pillar that they came up with to help with this issue, is that it says such a culture of connection rests on core values of kindness, respect, service, and commitment to one another. Which, when we talk about community groups, that's what community groups do. They love each other, right? They pour into each other, they serve together, and they learn the word together, right? That's the core things that community groups do. So what the Surgeon General figured out here is something that the church has been doing for
Figured out what we already knew.
well, we already knew, right? And that's great, because we already have that built in, right? People who are looking for that, people who are lacking something in their lives, right? We got it. We got it here. We've got it on Wednesday nights. We've got it on every day of the week. We've got a group available.
So, John, tell me, have you been in a group like that? What does it feel like to be in a group like that?
It is, oh man. So our group, we actually have a name for our group. We are the Tired Parents for Jesus, TPFJ, Tired Parents for Jesus. We actually, my wife Jackie and I, we established this group. We wanted to have a group where we could really help raise our kids in the faith, right? Real intentionally try to raise our kids in the faith.
Yeah.
But we knew we needed other people to do it. We couldn't do it on an island. We couldn't do it alone. So we started this group. The first couple years were a lot of in and outs. We had a couple of core people that stuck around, some great, just the most amazing people. And we built some great friendships with them. But it was kind of hard with the in and the out, right? And it was kind of dejecting at first, where we're like, oh man, is anybody like us?
Yeah.
You know, or are we not cool? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is it me? Do I smell? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, God brought people in, and they had the same heart, and they were going through a lot of the same trials and facing some similar issues. And what it was is we got a chance to just connect. And I mean, connect at the level where we're praying for each other over some really, serious stuff.
Yeah.
Kid issues, job issues, health issues, family issues, relationship issues. I mean, we're talking about the things that most people are too scared to talk about. And having a place for somebody to do that is so important. It's so meaningful. It's life-saving at times.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to bond over that, to go to God's word over that, to pray for each other and with each other over that, to tangibly help each other with that, with those issues. And I say it's been so meaningful. It's been so life-changing for me to be able to share that with other people. It's been wonderful. So
Brian, you've been in a group like that?
Yes, several.
Yeah.
And one of them I'm in, we've been together probably 25 years.
Yeah.
We meet every Friday morning at 6:00. But some of them, we've done with specifically young people, now that I'm not a young people anymore. And that was kind of fun. We did a video series. We've done books of the Bible. We've met at various frequencies. The nice thing about the small group is that you really do end up developing friendships in an authentic way that can be very long lasting, and encourage each other, hold each other accountable, have a lot of fun. And it's really a church within a church.
Yep.
Because a place like FBC,
Yep.
we got 12 or 1,300 people on a given Sunday, and we have a church we have 3 churches within a church.
Yeah.
It depends on what service you go to. But even, in that miniature version of the big church, we don't share on Sunday mornings. We really need to be in a community of people that we can relate to over a period of time, develop relationship with, get vulnerable with, and then go deeper. We're just not going to stand up on a Sunday morning and get heard.
No.
But in a small group, we get heard.
Yeah.
And we can go deeper in the Word.
And one of the joys of Sunday morning when you're in a community group or a small group like that is you run into people in the lobby that are like, yeah, you're not just an acquaintance to me.
Yeah.
Like we really know each other.
Yeah.
I got a phone call just yesterday. It's my day off on Monday, and it was from somebody in my community group, and I picked up, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I told him what I was doing. And I go, "Well, it's my day off." And he goes, "Oh, I called you on your day off." I go, "What are you talking about, man?" I don't care if it's my day off for you. Like it's like we're friends. I found that in all of those groups, especially when new groups are forming, you and I know about this, right? We're forming these new groups. You're putting together a bunch of people that we don't know if they're going to like each other or not. It takes time.
it takes time.
Like in fact, one of the rules we used to have at a church I was at was, hey, you got to go 3 times in a row. And you got to go 3 times in a row. And if on the 4th time you're not feeling it, you get a get out of jail free card is what I would call it. And it'd be like, you can leave. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to call you afterwards and go, why'd you not? Although we will think that probably. Yeah. But it's like, if you just go once, everybody's going to go once and go, well, that was weird and awkward.
Yeah, right.
I don't know those people, and I don't know if I like them. And I can't believe the throw cushions they have on their couch or whatever it is,
But it's easy to stay anonymously detached.
Yeah, totally.
If we just come on Sunday morning and don't get involved
Right.
in a community group like that.
Right. So you got to, and then I always say there's a breakthrough moment almost in every group, and it usually involves tears, where somebody finally gets real, shares something that they've either been struggling with, and the recovery community is probably best at this because they walk in the door ready to share their deepest, darkest secret. But the rest of us, when we walk in the door, we're still managing expectations and cultivating our image, and eventually somebody, we had a group that was we were together for 10 years while I was in Elk Grove, and there was a night where one of our guys who was a business owner, he came in and he just started weeping, and it was because he was getting sued and he thought he was going to lose everything, and he basically said, I'm worth more dead than I am alive to my, at least my wife and kids would get the insurance and yada yada yada. And those moments are, I call them community group gold, because honestly, at that moment, we decide, are we in with this guy in his life or are we out? And you choose in that moment. And frankly, we need to handle those moments well. But when we do, it creates bonds that last.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in week 3.
No, it doesn't happen week 3.
No.
And also, I will say this: like we have lots of times of depth and prayer and stuff like that, but we also have a lot of fun.
Yes.
I don't want to say that.
Oh yeah.
Community groups are about having fun too. We
Yes,
play
they are.
games. We'll just sometimes just have game night, and we can really see who the competitive people are in our group, and it's joy, because I think a lot of times too, we all have busy lives. We're either running our kids around or we're, at work or whatever it is. We got stuff to do. Sometimes you just want a place where you can unwind and have fun.
Yep.
And, I know you make pizzas for your group and stuff.
It's laughter and tears.
Yeah.
Laughter and tears are the gold of a community group.
Yeah.
When
Another element in terms of activities for community groups is serving together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it could be something as simple as, you know, Love Lodi or going on a mission trip or something, but the people you already know and love, and then to go serve in some kind of some form of ministry could be very meaningful.
It's very meaningful and drawing people together. So, Brian, you're starting a new group. It's going to be on Wednesday nights. Is that right?
Yes, right here.
Yeah, right here on campus during our big Wednesday night ministry. Room 7.
Room 7.
Exactly where it's going to be. Room 7. Talk about stepping into a new group. Does that stir up like anticipation or
I think it's
hesitation?
No, I'm looking forward to see who comes through the door.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Don Walters is going to co-lead it with me.
Yes, very good.
And he's a lot of fun. And so we are looking forward to that together.
That's right. I tell people when they're starting groups all the time, like, hey, start off with just a few people that you really like and don't worry about who else shows up. Like, if you guys enjoy getting together, you'll enjoy getting together, and people eventually will come and they'll stick, and you'll see God kind of knit that group together in a lot of ways. One of the challenges at a church our size, I've said this a lot of times, is we have some vibrant groups with women. Big groups with women. On Wednesday night, we've got this really big men's group, and a lot of times people don't have space for both a community group and one of those, and so they have to choose. And, you know, what would you say to somebody that's in that scenario?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because in those communities, in those larger Bible studies or whatever, you can build community.
Yeah.
I would just encourage you, wherever you are, build community. Right? If you can get together within those Bible studies and get 4, 5, 10 people together outside of them and meet together, because it's within those smaller circles, right? You know, we learn, like you always say, we learn in rows, we connect in circles, right? So life is done in circles. Do it. I also encourage you, if you are married, do something with your spouse too. You know, get into a group with your spouse. It's an opportunity to connect together there. You know, there's seasons for everything, but just have those relationships. Make sure you're in a place where you have that. Yeah. So
absolutely. It's vital to spiritual growth. It's vital to spiritual growth.
Absolutely.
Every bit is important. We gather for worship. We serve in various areas. But if you aren't being known and knowing others and pouring in that level, like, you are probably not growing the way God wants you to.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, it's a source of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun in the family. Of
absolutely.
The church.
Well, it's almost like an incarnation of a family. Like, when you think about our families, we go through the hardest stuff with our families, and we rub each other to try and grow and develop our kids, and sometimes our kids push back on our parenting and all the rest of that. But we also laugh. And we also go to Disney or whatever we do as a family, where we have memories that we would not trade because they were the best.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're looking for in community groups as well.
Absolutely.
If you are not in a community group, we would invite you into one. John actually does a bunch of the connecting of getting people into those groups, getting them to try it out. You got to give it a few weeks.
A few weeks.
And if it doesn't work out in the first group, I would say come back to the well, ask John for another group and give it a shot. Brian's group is starting in just a couple of weeks here, and so we'd invite you.
It's 13th.
Yep. And tonight I will be at my community group at a pool party. So just don't imagine that, but that's where I'll be, and it's just one of those life-giving things that we want to encourage our church family to be a part of. So
100%.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for joining us for the podcast today. We hope you get a chance to live out that community that we're talking about here. God bless, and we'll see you next week.